The screaming wind drowned out every other sound in the world as Norris urged his horse forward through the blinding snowstorm, cursing himself for not seeking shelter an hour earlier, when the first flakes had begun to fall. February of 1883 had proven itself the harshest winter Montana Territory had seen in a decade. And here he was, miles from Lewiston, fighting through what felt like the end of the world itself. His horse whinnied nervously, breath coming out in great billowing clouds of steam, and Jesse was about to turn the animal toward a cluster of trees when something dark against the endless white caught his eye. At first he thought it might be a fallen animal, but as he drew closer, his heart seized in his chest. A woman lay crumpled in the snow, her dark hair spread around her like spilled ink, her lips already taking on a dangerous blue tinge. Jesse was off his horse before he could think, his knees sinking deep into the powder as he reached for her. She was alive, barely, her breathing shallow and irregular. Her clothing, though clearly once fine, was completely inadequate for this weather, a thin traveling dress that might have been suitable for a train journey but was practically a death sentence out here. "Madam, can you hear me?" Jesse shook her gently, but her eyes remained closed, only the faintest flutter of her eyelids indicating consciousness. He had to get her warm immediately, or she would not survive another hour. His cabin was closer than town, maybe 2 miles northeast if he pushed hard. Without hesitation, he lifted her into his arms, shocked at how light she felt, how fragile. He managed to get her situated in front of him on the saddle, her body pressed against his chest as he wrapped his heavy coat around them both. The ride to his cabin was a blur of white and cold and desperate prayer. Jesse had never been a particularly religious man, but he found himself bargaining with God, promising all manner of things if only this stranger would live. Her head lolled against his shoulder, and he could feel how icy her skin was even through his shirt. He kept talking to her, nonsense mostly, anything to keep himself focused on something other than the very real possibility that he was carrying a corpse. When the dark shape of his cabin finally emerged from the storm, Jesse nearly wept with relief. He half fell from his horse, keeping the woman secure in his arms, and kicked open the door. The interior was cold, the fire having died hours ago, but at least it was shelter from the wind. He laid her on his bed, the only real piece of furniture he owned besides a table and 2 chairs, and immediately set about building up the fire. His hands shook as he worked, whether from cold or fear he could not say. Once flames were crackling in the hearth, Jesse turned his attention back to the woman. Her breathing had grown even more shallow, and he knew from experience with winter conditions that he needed to get her out of her wet clothes. He worked quickly and clinically, averting his eyes as much as possible while removing the frozen dress and undergarments, replacing them with his own long underwear and warmest flannel shirt. They hung on her small frame, but they were dry, and that was what mattered. He piled every blanket he owned on top of her, then dragged the bed closer to the fire. Still, she shivered violently, her teeth chattering so hard he feared she might crack them. Jesse remembered his father once telling him about a man who had frozen nearly to death, how the only thing that saved him was sharing body heat. The thought made him hesitate, propriety warring with necessity, but when her shivering grew even more violent, he made his decision. Jesse climbed under the blankets beside her, pulling her cold body against his own, wrapping his arms around her and trying to transfer whatever warmth he could. She was like ice against him, and he rubbed her arms and back, trying to encourage circulation. Time passed strangely, measured only by the gradual warming of her skin and the steady crackling of the fire. It was nearly dawn when her eyes finally opened. They were a startling shade of green, bright even in the dim firelight, and they fixed on his face with an intensity that made Jesse catch his breath. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then her lips moved, barely a whisper, rough from the cold. "You saved me." "Could not very well leave you out there to freeze, madam," Jesse replied, suddenly aware of how close they were, how intimate this situation was. Her hand emerged from beneath the blankets, pale and delicate, and touched his face with trembling fingers. "I will repay you with everything," she whispered, her voice carrying a fierce determination that seemed at odds with her weakened state. "Everything I have, everything I am, I swear it." "You do not owe me anything," Jesse said, uncomfortable with the weight of her words. "Anyone would have done the same." A sad smile crossed her face. "You would be surprised what people will and will not do." Her eyes fluttered closed again, and within moments she had fallen into what appeared to be a more natural sleep, her breathing finally even and deep. Jesse carefully extracted himself from the bed, his body protesting after hours in the same position. He added more wood to the fire and went to tend to his horse, who he had shamefully neglected in his panic to care for the woman. The storm had passed, leaving the world blanketed in pristine white. As he brushed down the horse and made sure the animal had food and water in the small lean-to that served as a barn, Jesse wondered who this woman was and what had brought her to be alone in a snowstorm in the middle of nowhere. When he returned to the cabin, she was still sleeping. In the growing daylight, he could see her more clearly. She was young, probably around his own 24 years, with delicate features and that remarkable dark hair that was now spread across his pillow. Her hands, lying atop the blankets, showed no signs of hard labor. This was a woman from a different world than his, someone used to comfort and ease. Jesse made coffee and warmed up some beans, not taking his eyes off her for long. It was past noon when she finally stirred again, her eyes opening slowly, taking in her surroundings with visible confusion before memory seemed to return. She tried to sit up, gasped, and fell back against the pillows. "Easy now," Jesse said, moving to her side. "You have been through quite an ordeal. Your body needs time to recover." "Where am I?" Her voice was stronger now, cultured, with an accent he could not quite place. "Eastern, certainly, educated. My cabin about 2 miles north of Lewiston, Montana territory. I am Jesse Norris, madam. I found you in the snow yesterday during the storm." "Anna Sterling," she replied, and something flickered across her face when she said her last name, something that looked like pain or perhaps fear. "I was on the train from Helena. We stopped because of the snow and I thought I saw a town, lights in the distance. I left my bags and walked toward them." She closed her eyes. "I realize now how foolish that was. The snow came down so hard so fast, I became disoriented. The lights disappeared. I just kept walking, and then I was so tired, and I thought I would rest just for a moment." "You would have died if you had," Jesse said bluntly. "No one can survive a Montana blizzard without proper shelter and clothing. Yet here I am, alive, because of you." Those green eyes fixed on him again. "I meant what I said, Mr. Norris. I owe you my life. That is not a debt I take lightly. Miss Sterling, truly, you owe me nothing. I am just glad I came along when I did." He moved to the stove. "Are you hungry? I have beans and coffee. Not fancy, but it will warm you up from the inside." She accepted the food gratefully, and Jesse pretended not to notice how her hands shook as she held the tin cup of coffee. As she ate, he studied her more carefully. There was a bruise on her left wrist, yellowish-green, several days old at least. And now that he looked closer, a faint shadow under her right eye that might have been from exhaustion or might have been from something else entirely. "Miss Sterling, forgive me for being forward, but are you running from something? Someone?" She went very still, the cup frozen halfway to her lips. For a moment he thought she would not answer, but then her shoulders sagged. "Is it that obvious? I have known my share of people in trouble. You have that look about you." Anna set down the cup carefully. "I was engaged to be married. A man my father chose for me, a wealthy man from Philadelphia, Richard Pemberton." Her voice went hard on the name. "He seemed charming at first, generous. By the time I saw his true nature, by the time he first raised his hand to me, the wedding was already planned, contracts signed, money exchanged. My father would not hear of canceling it. Said I must have provoked Richard somehow, that I needed to learn to be a better wife." Jesse felt anger kindle in his chest, hot and fierce. "So you ran? 3 days ago. I took what money I had hidden away and bought a train ticket west. I thought if I could just get far enough away, make a new life somewhere he would never think to look." She laughed, a bitter sound. "Instead, I nearly died in a snowbank. You are alive. That is what matters." Jesse poured himself coffee, giving himself something to do with his hands. "Lewiston is not much of a town, but folks here mind their own business mostly. You could disappear here if you wanted to. Could I?" Hope sparked in her eyes, fragile and desperate. "Reckon so. We can head into town once you are stronger, see about getting you a room at the boarding house. Old Mrs. Crawford runs it. She is a tough woman but fair, always looking for help with the cooking and cleaning. Would not pay much, but it would be a start." Anna looked down at her hands. "Mr. Norris, I meant what I said about repaying you. I have some money still, not much, but enough to offer you something for saving my life. Keep your money, Miss Sterling. You will need it more than I will." Jessie stood, suddenly uncomfortable with the gratitude in her eyes. "You should rest more. We will talk about the future when you are stronger." Over the next 3 days, Anna recovered her strength while the snow kept them cabin-bound. Jesse did his best to maintain propriety, sleeping on the floor near the fire while she took the bed, but the small space made privacy nearly impossible. They talked, tentatively at first, then with growing ease. Anna told him about growing up in Philadelphia, the daughter of a steel magnate, how her mother had died when she was 12, and her father had buried his grief in work and drink. Jesse shared his own story, growing up on a ranch in Wyoming Territory, losing his parents to scarlet fever when he was 17, working his way north until he found this piece of land and decided to settle. He had cattle, not many, and dreams of building up a proper ranch someday. It was a simple life, a hard life, but it was his. "You not get lonely out here?" Anna asked on the 3rd evening as they sat by the fire eating venison stew Jesse had made. "Sometimes," Jesse admitted, "but I prefer loneliness to the alternative. My parents were happy, truly happy together. I figured I would rather be alone than settle for less than what they had." Something in Anna's expression softened. "That is beautiful in a way. Most people I have known would marry for any number of reasons except love. What about you? Before your father arranged things with this Pemberton fellow, did you ever love anyone?" Anna shook her head. "I thought I did once when I was 18. A boy who worked in my father's office. But my father discovered us talking in the garden and had him dismissed immediately. I never saw him again." She stirred her stew absently. "After that, I learned not to let my heart lead me anywhere my father would not approve. Lot of good it did me. I behaved perfectly, never stepped out of line, and he still sold me off to a monster." The anger in her voice was raw and real, and Jesse understood it. He had seen enough of the world to know that money and power often created monsters, men who believed they could take whatever they wanted with no consequences. "You are free of him now," Jesse said quietly. "That has to count for something. Am I free? Or am I just a different kind of trapped?" But then she smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. "No, you are right. I am alive, I am away from him, and I have a chance to build something new. That is more than I had a week ago. By the fourth day, the weather had cleared enough for Jesse to hitch his horse to the small wagon he used for hauling supplies. Anna insisted she was well enough to travel, and though Jesse had his doubts, he could see the restlessness in her, the need to take the next step forward. He helped her into the wagon, noting that she still wore his oversized clothes since her own dress had been ruined beyond repair. The ride into Lewiston took about an hour, the wagon wheels cutting fresh tracks through the snow. The town was small, barely more than a main street with a collection of wooden buildings clustered around it. There was a general store, a saloon, the boarding house, a blacksmith, and a church. Maybe 40 families called Lewiston home, plus the cowboys and drifters who passed through. Mrs. Crawford turned out to be exactly as Jesse had described, a weathered woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She looked Anna up and down, taking in the borrowed men's clothes without comment. Found her in the snow during the storm, Jesse explained. She is looking for work and a place to stay. Can you cook? Mrs. Crawford asked Anna directly. Yes, madam, and clean, so manage household accounts. Do not need accounts managed, but I could use help with the rest. Room and board plus $2 a week. You will share a room with my daughter, Clara. She is 20, talks too much, but she is harmless. Anna's relief was visible. Thank you, Mrs. Crawford. I promise you will not regret this. See that I do not. Mrs. Crawford turned to Jesse. You did a good thing bringing her here. Town could use more decent folk. Jesse helped Anna carry her meager belongings, the bag she had managed to grab from the train before her ill-fated walk, into the boarding house. Mrs. Crawford showed her to a small but clean room on the second floor with 2 narrow beds and a window overlooking the main street. I will let you get settled, Jesse said, suddenly awkward now that the immediate crisis was over. If you need anything, my land is about 2 miles north. Anyone can give you directions. Anna caught his hand. Mr. Norris, Jesse, I meant what I said about repaying you. I know you do not want my money, but please, let me at least cook you dinner sometime or mend your clothes or something. I need to feel like I am not just taking from you. Jesse looked down at her hand on his, small and delicate but with a grip that spoke of determination. All right. Maybe I will come by in a few days, see how you are settling in. You can make me coffee. The stuff I make could strip paint. She laughed, and the sound was like sunshine breaking through clouds. It is a deal. Walking back to his wagon, Jesse tried to ignore the strange feeling in his chest, the reluctance to leave her behind. He told himself it was just concern for someone who had been through a trauma, nothing more. But as he drove home through the snow-covered landscape, he found his thoughts returning again and again to green eyes and a fierce, whispered promise. Anna threw herself into work at the boarding house with an intensity that impressed even Mrs. Crawford. Within a week, she had reorganized the kitchen, introduced new recipes that had the boarders complimenting the food, and repaired a stack of linens that had been sitting in a basket waiting for attention for months. Clara, Mrs. Crawford's daughter, had indeed proven talkative but also warm and friendly, the first real friend Anna had ever had. You are running from something, Clara announced one evening as they got ready for bed. It was not a question. Anna considered denying it, but something about Clara's open, honest face made her want to tell the truth. Yes, a man my father wanted me to marry. A bad man. Clara nodded as if this made perfect sense. Well, you are safe here. Lewiston might be small, but we look after our own. And Jesse Norris vouching for you counts for a lot. He is one of the most respected men around these parts. Is he? He seems so solitary. He is, mostly. Keeps to himself on that ranch of his. but when there is trouble, he is always the first to help. Like last year when the Robertson family lost their barn to fire. Jesse organized the whole town to rebuild it. Or when old man Tucker got sick and could not work his claim, Jesse made sure he had food and firewood all winter. Clara sighed dramatically. Half the unmarried women in the county have set their caps for him, but he never seems interested. Anna felt a strange flutter in her stomach at this information. Perhaps he is just particular. That is what Mama says. She also says when the right woman comes along, he will know it. Clara grinned. The way he looked at you when he brought you in, I think maybe he already has. Don't be ridiculous. He was just being kind to someone in need. But over the following weeks, Anna found herself thinking about Jesse more than she cared to admit. He came into town every Saturday for supplies, and he always stopped by the boarding house for coffee. Anna would sit with him in the small parlor, and they would talk about everything and nothing. He told her about his plans for the ranch, how he wanted to build it into something that would last, something he could pass down to his children someday. She told him about the books she had read, her love of music, how she had always wanted to see the mountains and the wide, open spaces of the West. Being with Jesse felt easy in a way nothing in her old life ever had. There was no pretense, no games, just honest conversation between two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. It was Clara who finally said what Anna had been thinking but was afraid to acknowledge. "You are in love with him." They were in the kitchen, preparing dinner for the boarders. Anna nearly dropped the pot she was holding. "What? No, I am not. We are friends. Anna Sterling, I have known you for 2 months now, and I have never seen you smile the way you do when Jesse walks through that door, and he is just as bad. The man rides 2 hours into town every week when he could easily get his supplies every other week. You think that is coincidence? Even if I did have feelings for him, which I am not saying I do, it would be completely inappropriate. I am barely out of an engagement to another man. I have nothing to offer him. I am damaged goods, as my father would say." Clara set down her knife with a sharp crack. "First of all, you are not damaged anything. You are a woman who survived a terrible situation and was brave enough to start over. Second, Jesse Norris is not the kind of man who cares about society's rules and expectations. Third, you deserve to be happy, and if he makes you happy, why not let yourself feel it?" Before Anna could respond, Mrs. Crawford stuck her head into the kitchen. "Anna, you have a visitor." A man, well-dressed, asking for you by name. Anna's blood went cold. "What does he look like?" "Tall, dark hair, fancy suit. Says his name is Pemberton." The pot did fall this time, clattering to the floor and spilling soup everywhere. Anna gripped the edge of the table, her vision swimming. "Tell him I am not here. Tell him you have never heard of me." Mrs. Crawford's expression hardened with understanding. "This the man you were running from?" "Yes. Please, you cannot let him find me. Clara, clean up this mess. Anna, you come with me. There is a back staircase." Mrs. Crawford moved with surprising speed for a woman her age, leading Anna up the narrow servants' stairs to the second floor. "You will stay in my room. Lock the door and do not come out until I tell you it is safe." Anna obeyed, her hands shaking so badly she could barely turn the lock. She heard voices downstairs, Mrs. Crawford's firm tone and a man's smoother, more insistent one. Richard's voice, the one that had whispered sweet words before it had spoken cruel ones. The one that had promised to love her before it had told her she was worthless, stupid, clumsy, deserving of his anger. She sank down against the wall, pulling her knees to her chest, and tried to breathe through the panic. He had found her. After all this time, all this distance, he had found her. A part of her had always known he would, that men like Richard Pemberton did not let go of things they considered their property. The voices below grew louder, Richard's tone turning sharp and demanding. Then another voice joined the conversation, deeper, familiar, and Anna's heart leaped. Jessie. She crept to the window and looked down. Jessie's wagon was parked outside, and she could see him through the front window of the boarding house, standing between Mrs. Crawford and Richard. Even from here, she could see the tension in his shoulders, the protective stance. "I am telling you, Mr. Pemberton, there is no one here by that name," Mrs. Crawford was saying, her voice carrying through the thin walls. "Someone saw her get off the train in Helena. The trail led here. I know she is in Lewiston, and I will find her." Richard's voice was cold, controlled, but Anna could hear the anger underneath. "She is my fiancée. She is confused, possibly ill. I need to take her home where she can receive proper care." "Seems to me if a woman runs away from a man, she has good reason," Jesse said, his tone deceptively mild. "And if she does not want to be found, well, that is her right. This is none of your concern, Cowboy. This is a private family matter. Anything that happens in my town is my concern, and I am telling you nicely that you should get back on your horse and return to wherever you came from." There was a long pause. Then Richard laughed, a sound without humor. "Your town? You are just a rancher, nobody. Do you have any idea who I am? What kind of power I have?" "Don't much care," Jesse replied. "Out here, your money and your name don't mean much. Out here, a man is judged by his character, and right now, yours is not looking too good." Anna heard the sound of movement, something crashing, and she was at the door before she could think, yanking it open and racing down the stairs. She burst into the parlor to find Richard with his hand on Jesse's shirt, Jesse's fist cocked back, Mrs. Crawford standing between them with a shotgun pointed at the ceiling. "Enough!" Mrs. Crawford's voice cracked like a whip. "Mr. Pemberton, you will leave my establishment now, or I will have the sheriff throw you out." Richard's eyes found Anna on the stairs, and his face transformed into a mask of concern that would have been convincing if she had not known better. "Anna, darling, thank God, I have been so worried. Your father is beside himself. Please let me take you home." "I am home," Anna said, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "I am not going anywhere with you, Richard. Our engagement is over. I am sorry if you came all this way, but you wasted your time." Something dark and dangerous flickered across Richard's face, there and gone so quickly she might have imagined it. "Anna, you are not thinking clearly. The strain of the wedding planning, your nerves, it has all been too much. Come with me, and we will get you the help you need." The lady said no. Jesse stepped forward, positioning himself between Anna and Richard. "I think you should leave now." Richard's facade cracked completely. "You think you can keep her from me? Some nobody cowboy in the middle of nowhere. I will have lawyers here so fast your head will spin. I will have you arrested for kidnapping, for corrupting an innocent woman. I will destroy this entire pathetic town if I have to." "Try it," Jesse said quietly, and something in his voice made Richard take a step back. "But while you are making threats, you should know that Anna has already written a full account of how you treated her, how you hit her, how you terrorized her. She has shown the bruises to Mrs. Crawford and to the town doctor. That document is locked in the sheriff's safe. Anything happens to her, to me, to anyone in this town, and that document goes to every newspaper between here and Philadelphia." This was news to Anna, but she kept her face carefully neutral. Jesse was bluffing, but it was a good bluff. Richard looked between them, his face mottled with rage. "This is not over. You have not heard the last of me." "I think we have," Mrs. Crawford said, raising the shotgun a few inches. "Get." Richard left, slamming the door behind him hard enough to rattle the windows. Anna sagged against the banister, her legs suddenly unable to hold her. Jesse was there immediately, his arm around her waist supporting her weight. "It is all right. You are safe. He is gone. He will come back. He will make good on his threats. I have brought this down on all of you, on this whole town." Anna could feel hysteria rising in her throat. "I should leave, go somewhere else, lead him away from here. You will do no such thing." Mrs. Crawford set the shotgun down. "That man is nothing but hot air and empty threats. He has no power here. You do not know him. You do not know what he is capable of." Jesse turned her to face him, his hands on her shoulders. "Anna, listen to me. You are not alone in this. We are not going to let him hurt you. Do you understand me?" She looked up into his face, seeing the determination there, the fierce protectiveness, and something else, something that made her breath catch. "Why are you doing this? Why do you care so much?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. His hands dropped from her shoulders and he stepped back, suddenly awkward. "Because it is the right thing to do. Because no one deserves to be treated the way he treated you. There is more to it than that." Anna moved closer to him. "Please, Jesse, tell me the truth." For a long moment he said nothing, just looked at her with those steady brown eyes. Then, quietly, "Because somewhere along the way I started to care about you. More than I should, more than is probably wise, but there it is." Anna felt something break open in her chest, something warm and terrifying and wonderful. "Jesse, you do not have to say anything. I know the timing is terrible. I know you just got free of one man and the last thing you need is another one complicating your life. But I could not let him take you, I could not." His voice was rough with emotion. "You are nothing like him," Anna said fiercely. "Nothing at all. Richard made me feel small and afraid. You make me feel strong and brave. Richard took things from me. You have given me everything, asking nothing in return." "Anna," she closed the distance between them and kissed him, standing on her toes to reach his lips, pouring into the kiss everything she had been feeling for weeks but had been too afraid to acknowledge. For a heartbeat, Jesse went still with surprise. Then his arms came around her, pulling her close, and he kissed her back with a gentleness and passion that made her dizzy. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Mrs. Crawford cleared her throat meaningfully. "Well, I suppose that settles that. Jesse Norris, if you are going to court this girl properly, you will do it where people can see, understood?" Jesse grinned, looking younger and happier than Anna had ever seen him. "Yes, madam. I would not dream of anything improper. See that you do not." But Mrs. Crawford was smiling too. "Now, I believe we have dinner to finish preparing, and Jesse, you are staying to eat it. We have things to discuss, like how we are going to make sure that Pemberton fellow does not cause trouble." Over dinner, they made plans. The sheriff, a grizzled man named Tom Hawkins who had known Jesse since he first came to Lewiston, agreed to keep an eye out for Richard. The town doctor, a kind older man named Matthews, examined Anna and documented her fading bruises, creating the official record that Jesse had bluffed about. The whole town, it seemed, rallied around her, this stranger in their midst, because she was one of them now, and they protected their own. Richard stayed in Lewiston for 3 days, taking a room at the saloon and making pointed appearances around town, clearly trying to intimidate Anna. But everywhere he went, he found the townspeople cold and unwelcoming. When he tried to approach Anna outside the boarding house, Jesse appeared as if from nowhere, along with 2 other ranchers who happened to be Jesse's friends. When he went to the sheriff, claiming Anna was not of sound mind and needed to be returned to her family, Sheriff Hawkins politely but firmly told him that Anna was an adult woman who could make her own choices. On the 4th day, Richard left, but not before finding Anna one last time in front of the general store. Jesse was inside buying supplies, but Clara and several other women were nearby. "This is not finished," Richard said in a low voice. "You think you can humiliate me like this and just walk away? You think you can embarrass me in front of my business associates, my family, by running off like some common whore?" Anna lifted her chin. "I think I am free of you, and that is all that matters. Go home, Richard. Find some other woman to torment. I am done being afraid of you." For a moment, she thought he might actually strike her right there in the street, but Clara stepped forward, linking her arm through Anna's, and two other women did the same. A wall of feminine solidarity and defiance. Richard's lip curled in disgust, and he turned and walked away. An hour later, he was on a horse headed east, and Lewiston breathed a collective sigh of relief. Spring came to Montana territory in a rush of color and warmth. The snow melted, revealing the greening land beneath, and wildflowers burst into bloom across the meadows. Anna had never seen anything so beautiful, and she spent her rare, free hours walking the countryside, often with Jessie at her side. Their courtship became the talk of Lewiston, a source of endless speculation and approval. Jessie came to town twice a week now instead of once, always finding an excuse to stop by the boarding house. They would sit on the front porch in the evening, talking and watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Sometimes they would walk down to the creek that ran behind the town, and Jessie would tell her about the land, about the cattle, about his dreams for the future. "I want to build a real house," he told her one evening as they sat on the creek bank, their feet dangling in the water. "Something solid that will last. The cabin is fine for me, but it is not much of a home. It saved my life. That makes it special, no matter how humble it might be." Jessie picked up a smooth stone and skipped it across the water. "Anna, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me, of course. Do you think you will ever be able to fully trust a man again? After what Pemberton did to you, after how your father betrayed you, do you think you could ever let yourself truly rely on someone?" Anna considered the question seriously. "I think trust is earned, not freely given, and I think you have earned it, Jessie. You have shown me time and again that you are a good man, an honorable man. When you say you will do something, you do it. When you give your word, it means something. That is not something I had much experience with in my old life. I would never hurt you. I need you to know that. I would cut off my own hand before I would raise it to you. I know." And she did know it, felt it in her bones. "Jessie, what are you really asking me?" He turned to face her, and she could see the nervousness in his eyes, the vulnerability. "I am asking if you think you could see a future with me. Not right away, I know it is too soon, but someday. Could you see yourself as a rancher's wife, living out here, away from the cities and the society you grew up in?" Anna's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he must be able to hear it. "That society destroyed me. It made me into something small and scared. Here in Lewiston with you, I feel like I can finally breathe. I feel like I can be who I was meant to be." She took his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "Yes, Jessie, I can see a future with you. I want a future with you." The smile that broke across his face was like the sun coming out. He pulled her close and kissed her, and Anna felt the last walls around her heart finally crumble. This was what love was supposed to feel like, she realized. Safe and exciting all at once. Peaceful and passionate. A partnership of equals, not a prison. They courted for 6 months, following all the proper conventions, giving Anna time to heal and giving their relationship time to deepen and grow. Jessie brought her flowers from the meadow and taught her to ride. Anna mended his clothes and cooked him meals, delighting in the simple domesticity of it. They talked about everything, their pasts and their dreams, their fears and their hopes. In September of 1883, Jessie proposed properly, going down on one knee in front of Mrs. Crawford and half the town at the church social. Anna said yes through happy tears, and the whole town celebrated. The wedding was planned for October, giving them time to prepare and for Jesse to build the addition onto his cabin that would make it suitable for a wife. The night before the wedding, Anna sat with Mrs. Crawford and Clara in the boarding house kitchen, feeling strangely calm. "Are you nervous?" Clara asked, braiding Anna's hair. "No, I feel like I have been waiting for this my whole life. Like everything that came before was just leading me here to Jesse, to this place." Mrs. Crawford, who had become the closest thing to a mother Anna had ever really known, patted her hand. "He is a good man, Anna, the best I have known. You two are going to be very happy together." "I know." Anna smiled. "A year ago I was trapped in a nightmare, thinking my life was over. And now I am about to marry the man I love in a town full of people who have become my family. It is almost too much happiness. I keep waiting for something to go wrong." "Nothing is going to go wrong," Clara said firmly. "You deserve this, Anna. You deserve all the happiness in the world." The wedding took place in the little church in Lewiston, with the whole town in attendance. Anna wore a simple dress of cream-colored silk that Mrs. Crawford and Clara had helped her sew, with wildflowers in her hair. Jesse wore his best suit, and the look on his face when Anna walked down the aisle made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. They spoke their vows in steady voices, promising to love and honor each other for all their days. When Jesse kissed her as his wife, the church erupted in cheers and applause. Anna laughed against his lips, deliriously happy, thinking about the whispered promise she had made all those months ago in Jesse's cabin. She had sworn to repay him with everything, and she would spend the rest of her life making good on that promise, not out of debt but out of love. The celebration lasted well into the night, with food and dancing and music. Jesse and Anna slipped away as the sun was setting, riding together on Jesse's horse toward their home. The cabin, with its new addition, looked warm and welcoming in the fading light. Jesse had spent weeks working on it, adding a proper bedroom and a larger kitchen, putting in windows and a real floor. He carried her over the threshold, both of them laughing, and set her down gently in the middle of the main room. Anna looked around at the simple furniture, the warm fire burning in the hearth, the flowers Jesse had picked and arranged in jars around the room, and felt her eyes well with tears. "You like it?" Jesse asked, suddenly uncertain. "I love it. I love you." Anna turned to him, taking his face in her hands. "Thank you, Jesse, for saving me, for believing in me, for loving me." "I think you saved me just as much as I saved you," Jesse said softly. "I was alone, going through the motions of life but not really living. You changed everything, Anna. You gave me a reason to dream again, to hope, to build something that matters." They made love that night with tenderness and passion, discovering each other slowly, learning what brought pleasure and joy. Anna had been afraid, given her experiences with Richard, but Jesse was patient and gentle, making sure she felt safe and cherished. Afterward, lying in his arms, Anna felt a peace she had never known before. Life on the ranch was hard work, but Anna threw herself into it with determination. She learned to cook for ranch hands, to preserve food for the winter, to tend a garden. She learned about cattle and horses, about the rhythms of ranch life. Jesse was a patient teacher, never making her feel foolish for not knowing things, always praising her efforts and successes. In the evenings, they would sit together on the porch Jesse had built, watching the sun set over the mountains, and talk about their day. Sometimes Jesse would play the harmonica, a skill Anna had not known he possessed, and she would sing along, her voice clear and sweet in the mountain air. The first winter of their marriage was harsh, but they weathered it together, keeping each other warm through the long, dark nights. Anna found she did not mind the isolation, the endless snow. With Jesse beside her, she felt complete in a way she never had before. In the spring, Anna discovered she was pregnant. She told Jesse over breakfast one morning in April of 1884, and the look of joy on his face was something she would remember for the rest of her life. He swept her into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time, and they danced around the kitchen together. "We are going to be parents," Jesse kept saying, as if he could not quite believe it. "We are going to have a baby." The pregnancy was not easy. Anna was sick for the first few months, and the Montana summer heat made her uncomfortable and swollen. But Jesse was attentive and caring, doing everything he could to make her comfortable. He hired a local girl to help with the heavier chores, and he made sure Anna rested and ate well. Their son was born in November of 1884, a healthy boy with a powerful set of lungs and his father's brown eyes. They named him Jacob, and Jesse wept when the doctor placed the baby in his arms for the first time. Anna, exhausted but euphoric, watched her husband cradle their son and felt her heart expand to hold even more love than she had thought possible. "He is perfect," Jesse whispered. "Absolutely perfect. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for this gift." Motherhood transformed Anna in ways she had not expected. She had always thought she would be nervous, unsure, but instead she felt confident and capable. Jacob was a good baby, for the most part, and Anna loved every moment with him, even the sleepless nights and the endless feedings. Jesse was a devoted father, helping with everything, changing diapers without complaint, walking the floor with Jacob when he was fussy. The ranch continued to grow and prosper. Jesse's cattle herd increased, and he took on more land. By 1886, they were doing well enough to afford proper ranch hands and to build an even larger house, a real home with multiple bedrooms and a parlor and a dining room. Anna decorated it lovingly, making it a place of warmth and welcome. In the summer of 1887, their daughter was born, a tiny thing with Anna's green eyes and dark hair. They named her Ruth, and Jacob, now 2.5, was fascinated by his baby sister, always wanting to hold her and help take care of her. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. The ranch prospered, the children grew, and Jesse and Anna's love deepened with each passing year. They had their challenges, of course. There were harsh winters and dry summers, sick cattle and injured horses, childhood illnesses that had Anna pacing the floor with worry. But they faced everything together, their partnership growing stronger with each obstacle they overcame. In 1890, when Jacob was 6 and Ruth was 3, Anna received a letter. It came addressed to her maiden name, forwarded through several addresses before finally reaching Lewiston. The return address was Philadelphia, and Anna's hands shook as she opened it. It was from a lawyer, informing her that her father had passed away. He had left her a substantial inheritance, along with a letter he had written shortly before his death. Anna read it with tears streaming down her face. In the letter, her father apologized for failing her, for choosing Richard Pemberton, for not protecting her as a father should. He wrote that after she left, he had discovered the truth about Richard, had learned from others about the man's violent tendencies and cruel nature. He had tried to find Anna to apologize to make things right, but she had disappeared completely. He understood why, he wrote. He did not blame her. He only hoped that wherever she was, she had found happiness and peace. The inheritance was his way of trying to make amends, knowing it could never undo the harm he had caused. Jesse held Anna as she cried, mourning the father she had lost long before his actual death, mourning the relationship they might have had if things had been different. But she also felt a kind of peace, knowing that her father had understood in the end, knowing that he had regretted his choices. The inheritance was substantial enough to change their lives significantly. They could expand the ranch even more, hire more help, perhaps travel. But after much discussion, Jesse and Anna decided to use most of it to help Lewiston grow and prosper. They funded the building of a proper school, a new church, and helped several young families get started with their own ranches and businesses. "This is our home," Anna said. "These people took me in when I had nothing. They protected me when I was in danger. I want to give back to them to help make this community stronger." Jesse agreed wholeheartedly. The Norris family became one of the pillars of Lewiston, known for their generosity and their commitment to the town's welfare. Anna taught music and literature at the new school, sharing her education with the children of Lewiston. Jesse served on the town council, helping to guide Lewiston's growth and development. In 1892, they had another son, Samuel, and in 1895, another daughter, Grace. Their home was always full of noise and laughter, children running through the rooms, friends and neighbors stopping by for meals and conversation. Anna sometimes thought back to that terrified woman stumbling through the snow, and she could hardly believe how much had changed, how far she had come. One evening in the summer of 1898, Jesse and Anna sat on their porch, watching the sun set over the mountains as they had done countless times before. The children were playing in the yard, their laughter carrying on the warm breeze. Jacob, now 13, was teaching Ruth, 11, how to rope a fence post. Samuel, 6, and Grace, 3, were playing with the ranch dogs. "You ever think about that night?" Jesse asked, reaching over to take Anna's hand. "When I found you in the snow, all the time," Anna admitted. "I think about how close I came to dying, how different my life would be if you had not come along when you did. You would have survived somehow. You are the strongest person I know." Anna laughed softly. "I did not feel strong then. I felt broken and terrified and completely lost. But you picked yourself up and built a whole new life. That takes incredible strength." Jesse squeezed her hand. "I am so grateful for that storm, Anna. I know that is a terrible thing to say, but if it had not happened, we never would have met. I never would have found you." "I would have found you eventually," Anna said with certainty. "Somehow, someway, we were meant to be together. I truly believe that." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their children play, watching the sky turn from gold to pink to purple. Anna thought about the promise she had made, that first desperate night in Jesse's cabin, when she had whispered that she would repay him with everything. She had given him her heart, her love, her loyalty, her trust. She had given him children and a home and a partnership that enriched both their lives. And he had given her just as much, if not more, saving her in ways that went far beyond that night in the snow. "I love you," she said quietly, "more than I could ever put into words. You gave me a life worth living, Jesse Norris. You did the same for me." Jesse brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "You are my miracle, Anna, my gift. Every day with you is a blessing I never take for granted." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, their children came running up to the porch, demanding stories and goodnight kisses. Anna and Jesse gathered them close, their family complete and their hearts full, knowing that they had built something beautiful and lasting out of a chance encounter in a snowstorm all those years ago. The years continued to pass, bringing both joy and sorrow as all years do. They celebrated births and mourned deaths, watched their children grow and start families of their own. Jacob became a rancher like his father, taking over more of the daily operations as Jesse grew older. Ruth married a teacher from Helena and moved to the city but visited often. Samuel became a doctor, setting up practice in Lewiston and serving the community his parents had helped build. Grace, the baby, proved to have a talent for horses and helped run the ranch alongside Jacob. In the winter of 1910, Anna and Jesse became grandparents for the first time when Jacob and his wife, Margaret, had a daughter. Holding that tiny baby in her arms, Anna marveled at the continuation of life, the way love multiplied and grew across generations. Jesse was a doting grandfather, just as attentive and caring with the grandchildren as he had been with his own children. They celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary in October of 1908 with a party that brought together friends and family from all over Montana. The ranch house was filled with people, with music and laughter and love. Anna, now 49 years old, still beautiful with threads of silver in her dark hair, danced with Jesse in the parlor and felt the same flutter in her heart she had felt the first time he kissed her. 25 years, Jesse said, holding her close. It has gone so fast. And yet, I can still remember every moment of that first night when you saved my life. We saved each other, Anna. We keep saving each other every single day. More grandchildren came, filling their lives with joy and noise. Jesse, now in his 50s, moved a bit slower than he once had, but his spirit remained strong. Anna, too, felt the effects of time, but she had never been happier, never more content. They had built something extraordinary, not just a successful ranch, but a legacy of love and community and generosity. In the spring of 1915, they traveled back east for the first time since Anna had fled Philadelphia all those years ago. They went at the invitation of Richard Pemberton's widow, of all people. Richard had died the previous year, and his wife had found, among his papers, letters he had written about Anna but never sent. Letters that revealed a man consumed by obsession and regret, who had never married another woman, who had spent his life bitter and angry over the one who got away, Mrs. Pemberton wanted Anna to know that Richard's death had been peaceful, that he had expressed remorse for his actions in his final days. Anna accepted this information with grace, feeling pity more than anything else for the man who had once terrified her. She had moved so far beyond that frightened girl that Richard barely seemed real anymore, just a shadow from another life. While in Philadelphia, Anna visited her father's grave for the first time and made peace with the complicated feelings she still carried. Jesse stood beside her, a solid, comforting presence, and she knew that whatever ghost still lingered from her past, she had nothing to fear from them anymore. They returned to Lewiston with relief, both agreeing that while it had been good to tie up those loose ends, Montana was their home, and they had no desire to be anywhere else. The ranch, the town, their family, this was where they belonged. The years rolled on. Jesse's hair went from brown to gray to white, and his face became weathered and lined, but to Anna, he was still the handsome young cowboy who had pulled her from the snow. Anna, too, aged gracefully, her beauty maturing into something even more striking. They remained devoted to each other, still holding hands when they walked, still stealing kisses when they thought no one was looking, still talking late into the night about everything and nothing. In the summer of 1925, they celebrated their 42nd wedding anniversary surrounded by their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. The ranch now sprawled over thousands of acres, a thriving operation run primarily by Jacob and his sons, but still carrying the Norris name with pride. Jesse, now 66 years old, stood to make a toast at the anniversary dinner. 42 years ago, I married the woman who changed my life. I was alone before Anna, just going through the motions of existing. She gave me purpose, love, family, everything that matters. I found her in a snowstorm, half frozen and barely alive, and she whispered to me that she would repay me with everything. She has kept that promise every single day since, not because she owed me anything, but because that is who she is, a woman who gives everything she has to the people she loves. Anna, you are my heart, my soul, my reason for everything. I love you more today than I did the day we married, and I will love you for whatever time we have left and beyond." Anna stood and kissed him, not caring that they had an audience, that everyone was watching. "And I love you, Jesse Norris, today and always. You saved me in every way a person can be saved, and I thank God every day for that snowstorm, for bringing me to you." There was not a dry eye in the room as their family toasted them, celebrating not just their anniversary, but the love that had sustained them through 4 decades of life together. Jesse passed away peacefully in his sleep in the winter of 1928, at the age of 69. Anna, lying beside him, woke to find him gone and felt as if half her soul had been torn away. The grief was overwhelming, crushing, but she held on to the gratitude she felt for the years they had shared, for the life they had built together. At his funeral, attended by what seemed like half of Montana, Anna spoke about the man she had loved, the man who had shown her what true strength and kindness looked like. "He was the best man I have ever known," she said, her voice strong despite the tears streaming down her face. "And I was blessed beyond measure to be his wife." Anna lived for another 15 years after Jesse's death, spending her time with her family, working in her garden, teaching piano to the children of Lewiston. She never remarried, never even considered it. Jesse had been her one true love, and she was content with the memories they had made together. She passed away in the spring of 1943, at the age of 84, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. Her last words were of Jesse, saying that she could see him waiting for her, holding out his hand the way he had so many times before. They buried her beside him on a hill overlooking the ranch, with a view of the mountains they had both loved so much. The headstone was simple, bearing both their names and a single line Anna had requested: "Two souls saved by love." Their descendants continued to run the ranch for generations, keeping alive the story of Jesse and Anna, the cowboy and the woman he saved from a snowstorm, who built a life together based on love, trust, and mutual devotion. Their love story became legend in Lewiston, Montana, a reminder that sometimes the worst moments of our lives can lead us to the best things we will ever know, and that real love, true love, is worth everything we have to give. The Norris Ranch still stands today, a testament to what two people can build when they choose to face life together, supporting each other through every storm that comes their way. And on winter nights, when the snow falls soft and silent over the Montana mountains, some say you can still feel the presence of Jesse and Anna, their love as enduring as the land itself, proof that the best stories are the ones that begin with a desperate whisper and a promise kept across a lifetime.